Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Aarti Drugs Limited Q4 FY21 earnings call. This conference call may contain forward-looking statements about the company, which are based on the beliefs, opinions, and expectations of the company as on date of this call. These statements are not the guarantees of future performance and involve risks and uncertainties that are difficult to predict. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Adish Patil. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you present on the call to discuss our financial results for Q4 and FY21. In the wake of second wave of COVID-19, we hope all of you and your loved ones are healthy and safe. We hope everyone is following all the regulations and safety protocols laid out by various authorities. We are happy to share that in FY21, Aarti Drugs has delivered a strong performance. For FY21, our consolidated revenue stood at rupees 2,159.3 crores, a growth of 19.5% year-on-year basis. Revenue mix between domestic and exports revenue stood at 65:35% as compared to 66:34% in FY20. API contributed to 79%, specialty and intermediates put together contributed to around 8%, and formulations contributed around 13% of the consolidated revenues. In the March 21 quarter, consolidated revenue stood at rupees 502.7 crore, a growth of 11.6 year-on-year basis. During the March 21 quarter, API contributed to 78%, specialty and intermediates put together contributed to around 10%, and formulations contributed around 12% of the consolidated revenues. I will now take you through the standalone business performance. For FY21, standalone revenues from operations stood at rupees 1,914.9 crores, a growth of 17.1 year-on-year basis. Approximately 10% of this growth in the standalone segment was driven by volume growth due to the good demand across multiple therapies. Therapy-wise, the antibiotic category contributed around 44%, anti-protozoal around 15%, anti-inflammatory around 12%, anti-diabetic around 10%, antifungal around 6%, and rest contributed around 13%. Anti-inflammatory segment share to the total standalone revenue increased mainly on the account of good sales of products like nimesulide, diclofenac sodium and its derivatives, and celecoxib. 65% of these revenues came from the domestic market and 35% from the export market. Domestic revenue grew approximately by 15.4% and exports by around 20.6%. As discussed during our past earnings call, demand for anti-protozoal and some of the antibiotic products remained subdued due to lockdowns across the country during the year. We are expecting this demand to normalize once people start traveling regularly. For the current March 21 quarter, standalone revenue stood at rupees 452.08 crores, a growth of 11.2% on year-on-year basis. During the quarter, we witnessed a shutdown of 2 of our Tarapur plants in the month of January and February. On the annual basis, the impact was not significant as the shutdown lasted less than a couple of months. To mitigate this kind of risk in future, the company has recently converted 2 more of its manufacturing locations to zero liquid discharge category, in addition to 2 existing zero liquid discharge facilities since 2 years. Further, the company is in the process to achieve ZLD operations for 4 more facilities in Tarapur. For your benefit, Zero liquid discharge is a treatment process designed to remove all the organic liquid waste from a system. The focus of this process is to segregate effluent streams into various categories, extract byproducts like salts, and produce clean water that is suitable for reuse in some cases, thereby being more eco-friendly. Also, being a part of socially responsible corporate in the current dire conditions of pandemic, the company recently donated oxygen plants to the government hospital to help those who were severely affected by COVID-19. Now we'll talk about formulation segment performance. For FY21, formulation revenue stood at rupees 284.9 crores, a growth of 36.5% year-on-year basis. Approximately 36% of the formulation revenue came from exports for FY21. For the March 21 quarter, revenue for formulation stood at rupees 61.9 crores, a growth of 22.2% year-on-year basis. Profitability was slightly low due to lack of execution of export orders, which will come in coming quarters. Also, the second wave of COVID-19 had a little impact on the full utilization of the capacity. On a consolidated basis for FY21, gross margins expanded by approximately 400 basis points on a year-on-year basis to 38.7%. With the improvement in our operating leverage, process efficiencies, and better realization in sales, our EBITDA margins showed a meaningful improvement to 20.5% for FY21. We'll be able to maintain our EBITDA margins in the range of 18 to 20% going forward. Profit after tax before other comprehensive income for FY21 stood at rupees 280.4 crores as against rupees 141.4 crores year-on-year basis. EPS for FY21 stood at rupees 30.09 compared to rupees 15.14 in FY20. We are very confident in strengthening our top-line performance further in FY 2022 based on the incremental capacities which would be available in near future. For Q4 FY21, EBITDA grew 13.3% YOY to rupees 81.9 crores. EBITDA margin expanded to 16.3%. Profit before tax, excluding exceptional items, for Q4 FY21 stood at rupees 65.3 crores as against 52.3 crores year-on-year basis. Our balance sheet continues to remain robust. Our gross debt stood at 344 crores, of which 187 crores would be the term loan. Our net debt to equity ratio improved to 0.38x from 0.6x in FY20. However, our leverage is expected to increase slightly to some extent as we continue to ramp up our capacities through greenfield and brownfield capex. Nonetheless, lower cost of debt is expected to augment our return ratios further. Return on equity for FY21 stood at 35.8% as against 23.7% in FY20. Significant improvement in ROE was led by better process efficiencies, lower interest cost, and robust growth in profitability due to better realization in selling prices. Our pre-tax ROC, return on capital employed, stood at 34.2% as against 20.4% in FY20. Net operating working capital requirement was little higher on the account of higher RM inventory level. We are taking steps to reduce it, and in the coming quarters, you will see the results in terms of working capital requirement. The company incurred a capex of rupees 88 crores in FY21, and we are planning a capex of tentatively 550 crores over a period of 3 years for backward integration and capacity expansion. The majority of this capex will be done over the period of next 2 to 3 years and would be mostly funded through internal accruals. We are expecting an asset turnover of 2 to 2.5x on this investment once the entire capex is completed and utilizations are at full potential. Credit rating agencies like ICRA and CRISIL Both have reaffirmed our debt credit rating on long-term facilities to AA- with a stable outlook and A1+ for the short-term facilities. The strong credit rating will further allow us to cut down our rate of interest, which in turn would reduce our interest outgo, thereby improving our ROE further. In line with our shareholder payout policy, we have announced a share buyback worth rupees 60 crores and a dividend of rupees 2.5 per share during last financial year. The board has approved a share buyback of 60 crores in March 2021, which is currently ongoing. Cumulatively, we have distributed approximately 195 crores in the form of dividend and share buybacks over the last 6 years, which includes the ongoing share buyback as well. Our strategy to invest in backward integration has played a pivotal role in our strong performance. While the industry is facing supply chain issues due to the constraints of supply coming from China, our operations are largely unaffected due to these disruptions on the account of backward integration. We will continue to invest in backward integration to be self-reliant for various input materials and KSMs going forward. Apart from de-risking, the backward integration will also help to improve margin profile and return ratios. The company is well on track of increasing the contribution from lifestyle and chronic therapeutic areas and reducing share of acute therapies in our API business. Our recently expanded anti-inflammatory capacity has already started contributing to the growth. We have a robust pipeline of products under development for API and finished dosages, with more focus on antifungal, anti-diabetic, and anti-coag therapies. The company is also in the process of commissioning a new production line for anti-diabetic products. In fact, we have already commercially launched one of the anti-diabetic products as of now. In addition, brownfield expansion of one of the antibiotic products would also be completed shortly. We remain committed to explore more opportunities in the regulated markets with enhanced data integrity and automation. As far as US FDA is concerned, we had a recent dialogue with the authorities for one of our products for additional data. However, due to the recent second wave, our plan for mock audit by an ex-US FDA inspector slightly got delayed. We can now begin with the Q&A session. So we'll be open to take questions from you guys.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Shanti Patel from Shanti Patel Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. Now, this capex, which is spread over a period of 3 years, will result into how much increase in the turnover?
Mr. Patel, so this is the conference operator. There is an airy disturbance coming from your line, sir.
No, because of the cyclone, little bit disturbance will be there, but I'm trying. Now, is it okay? Hello? Are you getting my voice?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. My question was, after completing this capex spread over a period of 3 years, what will be the approximate turnover of the company? It will be 2x or 3x as compared to our turnover at present, and our profitability ratio and return on capital employed and equity will remain constant, or it will increase according to you?
I got your question. So the thing is, after the completion of this capex, and once we start utilizing these capacities to the full extent, we are confident that we should be able to reach a turnover of anywhere between 4.5 to 5,000 crores per annum on consolidated basis. So, and as far as the return ratios are concerned, definitely FY21 was very good, but still we feel that with all these products coming into picture, our EBITDA ratios should get enhanced and it should move upwards of 20% on a very stable basis.
Implied the return on capital employed and return on equity will increase then. Is it okay? Correct?
Yes, yes.
And as far as installed capacity at present is concerned, how much it is utilized? 100% or less than 100%?
So the thing is like this. With 100% of utilization, our standalone will make a sale of around 25 to 2600, and formulation another, you can say, can easily go to 350 to 400 crores. So with the current capacities, we do have a potential of anywhere between 2800 to 3000 crores.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Runjhun Jain from Nirmal Bang. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. And sir, you said that in the opening remarks that due to the COVID-related issues, there was some lower capacity utilization. Would you like to elaborate that? And because I was wondering, because Q4 didn't have so much cases, which were actually started coming more in from April. So would we have this kind of an issue in quarter one also?
Yeah, as far as the API capacities are concerned, means for the month of April and till half of May, we did not have any shortages in production due to COVID. But on the formulation side, I will like to ask Vishwa to comment on it.
Yeah, on the formulation side, we've also in the quarter, in the Q4, we did not have any production-related issues because of COVID. It was, in fact, more of a demand, lower demand in the Q4. However, in the current quarter, in April and May, we have faced severe manpower issues due to the COVID-related issues.
So you are saying that because of the COVID-related issue, there was lower demand in Q4, which led to the lower profitability?
As far as formulations is concerned, there was a lower demand, which was due to a higher stocking. The stock levels were kept higher in the domestic market overall, which rationalized in the Q4, and due to which there was a fall in demand in Q4, which again picked up in April. For APIs, Adish can comment.
So Q1 is normalized now?
Q1 is normalized, yes.
Great. Sir, can you give also some outlook about the growth, sales growth about the next year? You are saying that the new facility is coming up, so what kind of a growth we can see in the coming year?
Yes. So on the API side, on the standalone business, there are few incremental capacities which are coming up. Nothing too meaningful if you compare as compared to the greenfield capex which we were talking about. But still, we are targeting a growth of around 10 to 15%, a volume growth of around 10 to 15% in the coming year.
That's only for APIs, right?
Only for API I'm talking about, yes.
Yeah. And sir, on formulations would be?
So for formulations, in this financial year, all our increment would come from our existing capacities only, as well as in formulations, we do have a substantial business from our contract manufacturing side. So we are estimating revenues in the range of around 330 to 340 crores in the coming financial year. And we do have a capex plan of around 40 to 45 crores in the current financial year, which would start bringing in revenues partially from the next year.
So sir, this 40 to 45 crore of capex, is it the part of that 550 crore capex which you have given for over 3 years?
No, that is the formulation capex is in addition to that.
Okay. And sir, this last question, this year we have seen over the last year, profitability has improved quite handsomely. And next year you are saying that, and that is why you are being, I think, conservative. You've always give that. You are maintaining 18 to 20% of EBITDA margin. So but that is, we have done around 20% in FY21 itself. So you are saying that we might see some pressure on profitability in FY22? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we are just being conservative. There were few instances in the March quarter, in the late March quarter, of few of the raw material prices going up on the account of some shortages in terms of one of the suppliers going down in a particular product. But then with the streamlining of supplies, some of these prices which have gone up should ease down. That is what we are expecting. But just to be on a conservative side, we are saying 18 to 20% is fair enough to estimate or expect.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Lakshmi Singh from Athena Health. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the opportunity. So my first question is, I wanted to know why the promoters' holding have been decreased by more than 2% in the last 2 years. Can you give some idea about it?
Yeah, so it hasn't decreased significantly as such. And the thing is, some extended families might be selling their shares, but the core promoter families, they are not selling much. So there is nothing like a decided plan of reducing the holding, because maybe one of family, because of the cash flow requirement, might have sold a little bit. But overall, there is no such systematic selling in promoters.
Okay. So, is our debt to equity ratio has been same, or is it increased in this quarter?
Debt to equity ratio?
Yeah.
Debt to equity ratio has improved quite a lot. In fact, in the history of the company, I think it should be the lowest. It is 0.38 right now.
Okay. And can you tell the reason for decrease in sales in Q4?
Yes. So, as Risha told, on the formulation side, a little bit of demand aspect was there. But on the API side, it was mainly on the account of lower utilization also. So there were a few pollution-related issues in the Tarapur region, because of which our capacities did suffer in Q4. The utilization was only 64%, which usually is very high for us. So that was the main reason why the sales were low in Q4. But to reduce that risk in future, what we have done is that particular unit which faced shutdown, we have already converted that into zero liquid discharge operation, and we already got the permission also from MPCB for operating as a ZLD unit, and we have applied for 3 more. So and we have already started operating as zero discharge units. We have to get the formal letter from them, but as far as operations are concerned, those new 4 units are already converted into ZLD.
Okay. As you mentioned that we are opening to a few more facilities also.
I was saying that a couple of more existing facilities only. That also we are converting into zero discharge in near future, maybe in couple of months to quarters time. And we have just installed few equipments related to that in Tarapur region.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have a follow-up question, would request you to rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Abdul Puranwala from Anand Rathi. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the opportunity. So my first question is with relation to the geographical mix in FY21. So as mentioned in the presentation, North America sales have gone up from 7% to 11%. So would you throw some light on why this increase was there, considering that the plant is still not approved?
Yeah, so there are a couple of reasons to it. One is we also sell specialty chemicals and intermediates to US, North America. And another thing, Mexico is also part of North America continent. So I guess that is why you might be misled.
Okay. And so just one more question on the product under development. So under the formulations, could you throw some light on what could be the opportunities on the diabetes and the antifungal products, what is under development? Because if you see as per your guidance, not much is getting built up for the next 2 years. So from when do we see contributions from this product coming on stream?
So the anti-diabetic products we have already launched one of the product at commercial scale. But what we have done is our plant is yet to be commissioned because of the high demand from the marketing side. We were not able to take a small shutdown required to convert that to start commission that facility. So we have taken that in one of our another multi-purpose plant as of now. But then this product will give at least 100 to something about 100 crores of revenue potential might come from this new capacity. And we are also expanding our existing products through debottlenecking. So that is why around 28 until at least for the API and intermediate and spec chem business, around 2,600 crores of sale can be reached with whatever capacities which will be available for FY22.
Okay. So my question was specific to the products under development under the finished uses, where there are 5 products on anti-diabetes and 3 on anticoagulant.
Was more to do with this thing API. I think there might be some mistake. But Vishwa, there are 2 under development.
Yeah, we do have anti-diabetic and anticoagulant products under development, and some are under filing. However, these are for regulated markets, and the patent expiry, the generic launch for these products is 2023 and onwards. So we would expect commercial sales for these products to kick in after mid of 2023.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ranveer Singh from Sunidhi Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. So just you mentioned that 2,600 crore revenue for FY20. That is total revenue you are talking about, or from the current capacity is peak revenue you are mentioned?
That is the peak revenue which we can achieve with the current capacity.
Okay. So, like in phase 1, metformin project is already on, and phase 2 was scheduled. So, in FY22, any part of phase 2 metformin capacity would be commercialized?
Yes. So this phase 2 means actually it's like this. In metformin, when we created plant back in 2013, we were supposed to have 2 phases. First was 600, second was 1200. So those 2 phases have already been completed. Now another round of expansion which we are planning, that also we are going to do in 2 phases. So of that first phase will be done by the end of this financial year, most probably.
So phase 1 metformin capacity is already contributing to revenue, right?
Correct. So it around 1,000 to 1,100 tons per month of capacity is already there.
Yeah. So what you said that will by FY22?
Yeah. So what we are planning to do is we are going to scale up this 1,000 tons to 2,000 tons per month by the end of this year. And then after 3 years, it will be scaled up to 3,000 tons per month.
Okay. And secondly, for buyback, what is the rationale for this small buyback? Because already we had it in our balance sheet. So how does it, help us?
So it is a part of our shareholder payout policy, which is around 20, anywhere between 20 to 30% of PAT. So that is the reason why we announced this buyback.
Okay. And last one, if I can, you have already given EBITDA margin guidance, but can you give a gross margin guidance also? Because I believe that new capacity may have some higher overhead.
Gross margins, difficult to give right now, but I would say it will be anywhere near about 36% or something like that, 37%.
Okay, that's it from my side.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Umang Shah from AMSEC Life PMS. Please go ahead.
Sir, thank you for taking my question. Congrats on a good set of numbers. Sir, the first question was, you have some multi-purpose plants also and some capacity which is for specific products. So if you could talk about the asset turns and unit level economics for both the kinds of plants, it would be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So Umang, it's like this. So you're correct that we do have multi-purpose plants also. I would say around 80% of our revenues must be coming from dedicated plants. So in dedicated plants, we run only those products. In multi-purpose plant, what happens is products with similar reaction chemistry can be manufactured in the same plant by taking a changeover. But the problem is, whenever we do a changeover under the regulatory aspect, almost 5 to 7 days are lost in the cleaning process and everything of the product changeover. So the efficiency of the plant keeps on going down as the number of changes increases. So that is the reason why whenever the product is big enough, we always go for dedicated capacity. Possibly to start off with the product, we might start with multi-purpose plant because we might want to test the waters as far as marketing is concerned. And then ultimately as the product grows, we convert that into a dedicated facility.
Right. This is very helpful. Sir, I ask this because you have one of the best asset turnovers in the industry, from what I understand, and also the asset turnovers and new capacity which is coming up, which is 2.5 times. Is it working capital included or it's just on fixed assets?
It is on fixed asset actually.
And with working capital, how much would it be, if any indication?
So typically working capital is very roughly around 25 to 26% in our business, or 25 to 26% of the sales. So we can do that calculation.
Got it. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And sir, just last, if I could squeeze in, was, sir, regulation-wise in your export market in last 5 to 10 years, have you seen any changes? Are they getting better, stricter, stringent? Anything on that would be helpful. And do you sell it on tender basis or do you have your own distributors?
Yeah, for the API business you're asking, right?
Yes.
Okay. So as far as regulatory aspect is concerned, it has definitely become more and more strict over the last 5 years. In a lot of cases like genotoxic impurities, photostability studies, then your recently that NDEA, NDMA impurities, elemental analysis. So a lot of new studies are coming up as far as API manufacturing is concerned. So so API manufacturing is becoming more and more difficult and a very skilled job. The kind of specification pharmacopoeia requires as of now is very, very stringent if you compare the same with 10 years back. So as far as regulatory aspect is concerned, definitely it has become very strict. It is in a way good for people like us, established players like us, because it will reduce new entrants. It becomes that much difficult for a new player to enter into a newer molecule. So it is good for us. You asked another question, right?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to know if it's tender based, how much is tender based, and how much do you sell through your distributors?
Yeah. So as far as export business is concerned, It depends on the country. So if in a particular country, if the customer base is fragmented, then it is through distributors. If the customers are large enough to have their own, to ship their own consignments, like in a container, half container load, then it is always a direct business, because those kind of customers prefer to do a customer base is fragmented, it is through distributors.
Got it, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sagar from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Hi, Adesh.
No, Sagar.
So of the capex that you mentioned, 550 crores coming up over 3 years, what is the capex that will come on stream in FY22?
So, as in put to use will be very less, because these projects will go on, and they will be put to use in FY23 most probably. But there are few, like anti-diabetic small expansion is there, then antibiotic small expansion is there, and then we are also expanding a chlorosulfonation product at our Tarapur plant. Those 3 projects, mini projects you can call, they will happen in this financial year itself. In fact, the chlorosulfonation capacity which I'm talking about, it is almost to the tune of around 400 tons per month.
Got it. And can you quantify what was the loss in sales in Q4 due to the regulatory issues?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So regarding that pollution issues, if we take our utilization of capacities and compare Q4 actual production with Q2 production, and anywhere between 60 to 80 crores we must have lost.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adesh.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nimish Mehta from Research Delta Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. One thing, if you can let us know how many intermediates are we manufacturing for our own consumption, or in other words, how many of the APIs that we manufacture are backed up by our own production of intermediates, and the plan that we have in terms of capex, is that the backward integration, is that also towards more captive consumption, or it's more towards sales in the open market?
Yeah. So the plan which we have for further expansion is for both captive as well. Many of it is for captive consumption, so it will be a part of backward integration, and some of it will be selling outside as well. And as far as the previous question was concerned, that how much backward integrated, or in how many products we are backward integrated. So this top 14 to 15 products which we manufacture, they are contributing almost to around 88 to 90% of our total sales, or total standalone sales. And in all these 14 to 15 products, we are at least equally or more backward integrated than our competitors. So you can say almost this 88 to 90% of the sales is backward integrated.
So, is it fair to understand that all the KSM required for the 14, 15 products are manufactured by us?
So it is more like this. So if you can go n number of steps behind, but the logic to go behind is that first of all, you should be more backward integrated than your competitors, than your peers. That is the first rule. And second would be the KSMs which you are procuring, there should be multiple manufacturers available for that KSM, so that there is enough competition among them, so that you can get that KSM at a good price. If there is, some sort of cartelling or undue profit available in the KSM, then usually we go behind and manufacture that.
But is it not fair to assume that most of the KSMs are imported from China, and hence you are almost required to manufacture all the KSMs, from a competitive angle?
So it depends. Just to give you few examples, like ofloxacin, nor and levofloxacin. So these products were absolutely imported from China back in, I think, 2013 or so. Almost 80-90% of the India's consumption used to come from China. So when we launched this product, we launched, along with the OS, means the acids, whatever acids which are required as an intermediate to manufacture this product, that capacity will also be launched in India. But definitely, if you say the raw materials required for those acids, yes, some of them are coming from China. But then in spite of that, as of today, we are proud to say that almost 80 to 90% of the India's consumption is happening through our Indian capacities for these three APIs. So it all depends upon the competitive landscape. That is how we decide. And there are few intermediates which we are supplying to China as well. Few intermediates and the APIs. So that is also there.
Wow. And lastly, I mean, is it fair to assume that intermediate is a bigger opportunity than API, or wherever you can manufacture intermediate even for API, only there we can see an opportunity? I mean, is that a fair understanding, or how would you put it?
Yeah. Definitely we have seen ample cases in the market where intermediate manufacturers have done really well. What we believe in is that specialty chemicals, that line of business we feel is more attractive. Reason being, it has a lot wider application in terms of end use. So that is the reason why we are looking into this chlorosulfonation products, and we have been already doing those products since last 20 years. Now just that we are going through a better route, better continuous process. So now we'll be scaling those products like 10 folds than what current capacities we have. So that is the route where which we are following for expansion.
So that will be beyond pharma as well. The target customer would be beyond pharma as well.
Yeah, some of them are pharma, some of them are beyond pharma as well. Dyes and intermediate or pigments, colors.
Understood. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kunal from Valum India Discovery Fund. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I wanted to understand.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Your voice is not audible, sir.
Yeah, is it better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I wanted to understand, just wanted to have the split of the capex in three silos. So how much would it be for greenfield, brownfield, what will this, and backward integration?
Okay. I will slightly answer your question in a little different way. So the brownfield expansions or whatever debottlenecking incremental capacity enhancement which you do, or that and that will include our maintenance capex as well. So all this put together, we are keeping a very rough budget of 50 to 60 crores per annum for this kind of capex, maintenance plus brownfield. And for greenfield, we have already announced that around 550 crores of capex is lined up for next 3 years. So that is how it is split.
Okay, so please correct me if I'm wrong. So I think 500, you're saying 500 to 550 crores is for the greenfield capex, and the rest is some amount is for the brownfield and maintenance. Is that the right way to look at it?
Correct. Yes, that is what I said.
Okay. And got it. And regarding gross margin, do you expect any major pressure, I would say, pressure on the gross margin because of the raw material prices are moving up?
Harit, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah. Actually, this last March, April onwards, prices some of basic chemicals have moved up considerably due to shutdowns and closure of 1 or 2 major plants in US and Europe. So we expect these to cool down in next couple of months. So we are feeling that there will be a pressure for at least first 2-3 months in this year, but eventually selling price also will go up accordingly, because we'll pass that whatever increased price we'll pass it to the customer. So with net to net basis, 1 or 2 months we'll be suffering, but otherwise we'll catch up once the price stabilizes.
Sure. And just wanted to understand, could you give us an understanding? So regarding the greenfield projects which we are setting up and which will come on stream in the next 3-4 years, 2 to 3 years. So what is the product basket which you are targeting there? You mentioned that you're targeting specialty chemicals where you already used to manufacture those products, and now you're increasing the capacity and and the specialty chemical facilities would be able to come up on stream much quicker because the regulatory requirements of approval would be lower. So could you give us an understanding, other than these specialty chemicals, what else is there which you're targeting in terms of these new products for the new capex?
Yeah. So broadly, this greenfield you can split into 4 categories. One is the expansion of our current anti-diabetic product as such. This is a big expansion in a very big way. Then there is one product which also goes as an intermediate and API in few of the applications, like for skin treatment. And then there are a lot of intermediates which we will be captively consuming, and along with that we will be also manufacturing its allied intermediates which we will be selling outside. Then there is a huge capacity of chlorosulfonation products which is coming up. That also will be, means that mostly will be selling outside, and very minor part of it will be consuming captively.
Got it. Understood. That is very helpful. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
So your question is answered?
Yeah, it is answered. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is from the line of Arun Kumar from Ares Investment. Please go ahead.
I just wish to ask that what is your forward outlook on margin side and revenue side? Because earlier you had stated that due to your this pollution, in the months of January and February, you had problems with the production. I suppose that must have been overcome in this quarter. So what are your plans ahead?
Yeah, so definitely our because of the higher production, the operating leverage should definitely help us in improving the margins in the coming quarter. No doubt about that. So it will definitely push the margins on little higher side.
Okay.
Because of higher utilization.
Sure. And what about revenue front? Like how much growth do you expect?
Revenue front for the entire year. So we are targeting anywhere 10 to 15% of volume growth for next year.
Sure. That's all I would like to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Deepen Seth from Crystal Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. I have a question which is more of a strategic issue that I can't figure out at your company, and perhaps you can provide some clarity on this. From what it seems to me, and I must confess I'm not very familiar with the business, but it seems to me that you are, say, close to about 80% of the business is in the manufacture of bulk drugs, from a revenue perspective, 78-79%. And to the best of my understanding, none of these products, while some of them might be specialty, but none of these products are, patented products. They're mostly generics, or almost all of them would be generics.
Right.
And so the ability to maintain margins when you are supplying these to formulation makers, whether in India, maybe 2/3 or so, 60% or so of your sales are to other formulators in India. Some of them could be to overseas markets. Your ability to maintain a 20-odd% margin profile on this kind of product mix at a time when so many other players in the generic drug space are saying, in fact, some of them are formulators as well, are saying that they are suffering from the effects of continuous price erosion in many of these products. This is what surprises me. And maybe there is a strategic insight that you can share, because I do have a very high opinion of the group's ability to identify niche areas where it can do high margin, sustainable margin work. So I'm not questioning that this is not going to happen. It's just that I can't join the dots.
The thing is that there are a lot of other intermediate and spec chem business also, means in India itself. close to product profile what we manufacture. They are also doing, they have been doing rather for last 2-3 years EBITDA margins of anywhere in mid-20s, 23-25%. So it is quite possible if you scale up a particular product to a large extent, then your economies of scale kick in. And and when you are able to do that in a product like API, which is also governed by regulatory aspect, so even more entry barriers are there from regulatory standpoint also for APIs, and plus the economies of scale which we achieve. So I think the combination of the two, and plus the fact that, and the reason that we reach these economies of scale is purely because of good technology, good R&D, means good process improvement, and backward integration. Because of these three factors, we achieve big capacities, and once we achieve big capacities and our regulatory framework is already there, well organized. So I think both these two skill sets combined help us to achieve this kind of margin.
So if you'll allow me to add to that, sir, is it fair to assume that you would probably be a cost leader in many of the core high volume products that you
definitely the ones which we manufacture, definitely.
In large volumes?
The one which we manufacture means our top 15 products, definitely, yes.
And you would be like a cost leader by a mile. You wouldn't be a small-time cost leader being just 1 or 2%.
The thing is, this being a cost leader and process improvement, that is a very continuous process. I mean, 1 year we improve, second, third year the competitors catch up. Somehow. Then you have to improve further. So that race continues.
Yeah, it's a treadmill, and this applies at a global level because. Sorry, please carry on.
I request you to rejoin the queue for follow-up questions.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mitesh Shah from ICICI Direct. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. I just have a couple of questions. First of all, is zero discharge too expensive that we lost around 60-70 crore type of sales, and then we have decided to do the zero discharge? And if it is not and it's required for us, then when we can do the zero discharge for all of our plants?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, the thing is, zero discharge is slightly expensive, no doubt about that. Initially, the CETPs of Tarapur are functioning smoothly. And in fact, the new one also has come up. The phase 1 has already started. The phase 2 is yet to come in. And, so there are 2 CETPs right now in Tarapur, old and new. So the units which are connected to new CETP, they are running fine, there is no problem. But the one which are connected to old CETP, which was not performing properly, there we face little bit of issues in terms of production. So now, definitely we have taken a call that, in fact, two of the Tarapur units are already zero discharge ZLD since last 3 years. 2 of them we have already converted, means we got the permission also. Another 2 we are running in ZLD operations, but permission is yet to come. But that's okay because we are already running as ZLD. And 2 more units we are looking forward to do in a couple of months or 1 quarter's time. So we have already done that capex in the month of Feb, March, and April, where we are installing the Zennies, MBRs, and whatnot to evaporate and convert that into solid byproducts. So from OPEX point of view, a bit of it, we might feel a little bit of pinch early on, but on the very high, means I would say maximum on a yearly basis, maybe around 15 to 20 crores of OPEX will go up. But then there is also a probability of revenue stream being generated from this, which will offset at least 50 or more % of this increased cost. So ZLD does take efforts. It occupies space also, so which the space which is otherwise for it to manufacture a finished good. So overall, yes, it is expensive, but then I think that is a need of the hour, and the shortages of production caused due to these closures are much more expensive than this ZLD operations. No doubt about it.
So in a couple of months, you mean to say that we are having the zero discharge for all the plants, right?
Yeah. One of them which is connected to new CTP, we might continue to run like that. but then we will be very close to converting that to ZLD, but we don't see the need to do it because CTP is operating properly in that case.
Okay. And have you seen any increasing in the competition recently after FY21? The China has an impact and the other players has as well. So any change in the competition intensifying?
Harit, would you like to answer this question?
I don't think so. So far. The only issue is because due to COVID, our product profile, there was a demand issue in January, February. Otherwise, we don't see any competition, problem. New competitor coming, our product range is about not there.
Got it. Thanks a lot. That's it from me.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Abdul Suganwala from Anand Rathi. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the follow-up. So, just one question on the PAP capacity. So, by when would we expect this capacity to come in, and what would be the quantum on investment on it?
Sorry, Abdul, which capacity you said?
PAP, para-aminophenol.
No, it is not with us. It is a Valiant organization. We are not doing that.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Your question is answered?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is from the line of Purvi Shah from Kotak. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I think I have two questions. One is, if you could just give an update on the ongoing buyback as to how much has been got so far. And the other one was on if you could just share some updates on the PLI scheme wherein we've been shortlisted. So going forward, how do you see the movement or update on that one could help?
Ruby, actually, I could not hear the question very clearly, but the second one, I think you asked regarding the PLI scheme.
Yes.
One
is on the PLI scheme, and the other one was on the buyback updates.
Buyback updates. So buyback, the thing is, the bids are done. Obviously, it is oversubscribed now. I think this week, very soon, there will be a shareholder payout now in coming few days. So the process is almost completed. And as far as PLI scheme is concerned, the government recently announced, they came up with one more notification recently. They have mentioned 3 categories and 3 groups.
Right.
3 categories of product, 3 groups of companies. So we fall in category 2 and group B. So where the outlay, that way it is not huge. It is just, I think, 2,200 crores for our group. Spread over 6 years. So it is like 10% of the selling price for first 4 and then 8 and then 6%, something like that.
Right.
And the conditions what they have mentioned are the capex about 250. That anyways we were supposed to do. So that anyways we are going to do. So satisfying the conditions is absolutely not an issue for us. But then the details of that scheme is not yet out. So we don't know the intricacies of that scheme. So once it is out, we'll come to know.
So what I wanted to understand was also that whenever this PLI scheme come in effect, as in when you actually start production, so they start reflecting into numbers maybe 2 years down the line is what I want to understand.
Okay. Yes, correct. I think, yes, you are correct.
Correct, right? Yeah. So there's nothing that is on concrete at the moment. So whatever comes after FY24 only.
I think FY23 is the first year for the previous PLI scheme, I think.
Right.
Yeah, and the newer one, I think, for the newer one, so they have mentioned FY23, but then they might come with rectification. I don't know.
So what I'm trying to say is that for RPA trucks, when does it start reflecting into the numbers?
Yeah, 20, possibly 23 or 24 onwards. You're correct. This year it won't be there.
Right. Right. And the other thing, just wanted to confirm on the raw mat front that since we've seen a lot of starting raw materials and supplies from China where the price increase has been quite significant. But do we? We know that mostly for a quarter or two we are protected. But what after that? So are we? So how's the situation panning out? Is all I want to understand, because there are only few players who are getting affected and the others are not getting affected. So just wanted to understand what is the myth.
Harish will answer your question. Yeah.
So it depends on the product mix also. Depending on the product mix and normally now what China has done, if there are 2 or 3 producers, they just made a cartel and increase the price.
Okay.
If there are more than 3 producers, then it is difficult to form cartel even in China. So and whenever Indian producers start thinking to produce that product, they want to make money for next 2 years, because Indian companies start making they will take 2 years to perform that produce that product. So they typically attack those products like PAP, para-aminophenol or ECDA. The price has almost doubled more than last year. So there are many other products, and they want to make very fast money, and then they will, once Indian company starts producing, they want to dump. That is their strategy. That's what we see now.
So basically, I think the India plans better.
Yeah. I think every producer has a strategy. If the Chinese producer now have revised that strategy, a lot of Indian companies have started producing intermediate chemicals. Yeah.
Right. So basically, just would like to understand your thoughts on that. Whatever the PLI schemes that the government has, shown us, like both PLI 1 and PLI 2. Do you really think that the ground reality could change over next couple of years for trying to move from China to India, that shift that we are talking of?
Whether there is a PLI or not PLI, Indian companies who are able to compete Chinese with the technology products and other things, they will continue to do irrespective of PLI or not PLI. So PLI is only like small time subsidy, and there are a lot of if and buts, and a lot of value addition is there. 70% local value addition is required and all that. So it's very difficult to meet PLI conditions, actually speaking.
So forget PLI also, if we do not pay PLI, but irrespective of that also, because as companies also we are trying to de-risk ourselves from Chinese players for raw materials.
Sure.
How successful can the entire industry be? I mean, moving China out of equation is possible to what extent?
Yeah. No, it depends on the chemistry. Fermentation, we are not at all. The idea is not at all there in fermentation technology, and some of the products like phosgenation. Depend on the chemistry.
Correct.
Chemistry. Yeah. So China is ruling the world, actually speaking. So those chemistry, phosgenation and all, India will take 4 or 5 years to come. Indian companies to start, government giving permission and all that. So gradually, so next 10 years, we feel this next 10 years is for chemical industry, and many multinational companies across the world wants alternative to China. So definitely, Indian companies eventually will come out with.
We have the scope is all we want to understand. We have the scope to.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir, and all the best.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Imran Khan from Ratnatraya Capital. Please go ahead.
Am I audible? Hello?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So just wanted to understand, what is happening in terms of pricing, especially on the API side. Let's say compared to, Q4 FY21 compared to Q1, Q2 and Q3 of FY21. So how's the pricing is in the recent quarter?
pricing is more or less stable, but raw material prices have gone up due to shutdowns, and as discussed earlier, there are some basic chemical prices have gone up, and some intermediate KSM from China has gone up. So eventually, we will take, we also increase our price. So it is a just short term, there will be an issue, but otherwise, longer term, we will be able to pass on that cost to the customers, basically.
So there has been I understand that there has been a cost pressure, but the prices are same, right? I mean, difference in the pricing.
No, many products prices have gone up. Like many API prices have gone up recently, depending on the cost, basically.
All right. No, thank you. That's it from my side.
The next question is from the line of Mitesh Shah from ICICI Direct. Please go ahead.
Thanks for taking my question again. I have a couple of questions more. Actually, the post is cephalosporin anti-dumping duty. Have you seen any major benefit on that, or we can see in FY22 again?
We are not into cephalosporin, so we can't answer.
Do you have some anti-dumping duty on?
No, that is ciprofloxacin. Okay. Yeah.
Ciprofloxacin.
Okay. Yeah, so there will be less import from China. There will be definite advantage to Indian companies,
Okay. And how much we are dependent on the China for the raw material procurement?
It depends on the product to product. See, there in China also, the API manufacturers are different and raw material producers are different. So whatever China is producing, API producers are producing, they are not as backward as we are. We are also similar on the same line, or we are more backward. So we do import from China, but there is no issue on the availability as of now.
Got it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Adhish Patil for closing comments.
Thank you all for joining us on this call. So please reach out to us, to our IR consultant, Strategic Growth Advisors, or us directly. Should you have any further queries, stay safe, and now we will close this call. Take care. Bye.
Thank you very much all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. On behalf of Aarti Drugs Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.